So welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us, and very warm welcome to Jordan Ostroff, who has become a really great acquaintance and friend over the last several months, and we've had so many good conversations. I'm thrilled to have you here today, owner of Jordan Law and LegalEase Marketing based out of Florida. A quick introduction. I'm Maddy Martin, head of growth and education for Smith.ai. We host a lot of talks around running a better business because that's what we facilitate as virtual receptionists for calls, chats, texts, and now Facebook messages too. I'm very happy to announce that we're 24/7, which helps with the responsiveness that we offer a great deal for all practice areas, especially in this time. We're recording this during COVID when, hours and days blend together and people are looking for any opportunity to reach out to both marketing agencies and law firms and many other businesses just when they have the opportunity. So Jordan, welcome. Can you just share a brief bio on yourself, and then we'll get into the topic today, which is all about delegating down to a 3-day work week.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. And I echo your sentiments. It's been really cool, and which is weird to say while we're in a global pandemic, but it's been really cool to see the people that have continued or doubled down on the marketing and the engagement and the follow through. And so, I love that you guys have started putting on this series. I'm honored to be one of the guests. We did the same with our Facebook live show to just try and get out there and get in front of more people. So a little bit about me. I grew up in South Florida. I came up to Orlando to go to the University of Central Florida, and I have not left Orlando since. Stayed here for law school, stayed here as a prosecutor, stayed here to open up my own firm, got married here, met my wife here, got married here, had a kid here, all those wonderful things. And so after running the firm, I realized that I had no idea what I was doing marketing wise. And I ended up 6 figures in debt from hiring, not necessarily bad marketing, but just because I had absolutely no idea what I was doing. So I couldn't convey to them what they should do. And they weren't interested in helping me figure out what I needed. They were interested in taking my money. And so I had the decision, I own half the firm, my wife owns the other half. So our options were to go find other jobs or for me to kind of figure this out. And so that was in, I want to say 2016, 2017. Then we had our kid in early 2018. And I was like, all right, I'm just going to stop doing every paid for marketing. I'm going to focus on, meeting people. If the cases go down, great. We'll spend time with our kid, but we'll save, $10,000, $15,000 a month. And then realize that put such a small dent in it because we were just yelling and, throwing business cards off of the roof of a building here would have been just as helpful. And so then I used that time to kind of learn what I was doing and then started helping other people. And then in January of this year, we opened up LegalEase Marketing, EASE, because I love dad jokes. And so we have our dad joke right there in the name, just in time for a global pandemic. So, which sounds like a bad thing, but actually turned out to be pretty good. We had a number of clients beforehand, smaller scale. We got a number of clients beforehand, and then it really helped us work with people and provide free resources for people through the coronavirus. And then I would say over the last 4 to 6 weeks, we've seen a huge uptick in people who are ready to get everything lined up to get back out there to really capitalize now that things are slowly opening. So it's been a really weird blessing in disguise. Just unfortunately, obviously we've had so many people die. We've had such an economic hit on this, but I think a lot of us will look back and see some positives from here simply because it got a lot of people being more tech focused, and it got a lot of people also focusing on what is important and realizing how important their family was, which is something that I've been lucky enough to be able to do for the last, I've had a kid now he just turned 2 in March. So I've been working 3 days a week pretty much that entire time so I can spend time with him. And so I want to share some of those tricks and tips and guidelines to you all so that you will have more time for whatever you want, whether that's working more, whether that's working less, whether that's friends, family, sleep, exercise, whatever. I think too often we as attorneys sit back and let our schedules get filled instead of taking charge of them. And therefore we are constantly busy, even though we may not be achieving anything.
So that brings up a whole nother point about, are you spending time on, meaningful work? But I think just to, start off the conversation with mindset, Jordan, one of the things that I've always noticed about you is that you are very even tempered, you're very thoughtful in your approach to work. even when we do, a Facebook live chat or something, you're very well prepared, and just as prepared as anyone else would be. And you would have totally fooled me if you said, I work, 100 hours a week for the amount that I see you producing. So let's start with mindset. How do you set goals and get your mind to a place where you can delegate to the extent that's required to meet your goals? Because I think that for many people, it's very hard to be a firm owner, especially in a small firm, especially in a business as ethically and far wide regulated as the legal industry and owning a law firm is. How do you get your mindset and sort of that fear quelled to the point where you know your goals, you can achieve them, and you can delegate to achieve them when it's not, specifically legal work, or even maybe when it is?
So I guess let's start with the fear element. That's something that you just sort of have to get over through whatever means work for you. Like, my thing is, if I woke up tomorrow and I wasn't an attorney, I'd be okay. Like, I'd find something else. And so that's not to say that I run my firm by the seat of my pants or anything like that, but like, there is any other profession that is easier to make a living than being an attorney. I'm convinced, and I talk to doctor friends and I'm like, look, you have to understand, like, if you were doing a surgery and in the middle of it, there was another doctor trying to kill your patient, that's what being a lawyer is like. Like, there's another side trying to kill you or ruin your case right in the middle of it. So I can't imagine a more consistently stressful job, because most times you don't have somebody actively working against you while you're trying to do your job. So that's what got me over the fear, was just like, look, if I got disbarred or if I quit being an attorney tomorrow, I'd probably be happier. I'd probably live longer. I mean, whatever the positives are from it. But everybody's going to have to find their reasoning to get over that fear, because really it comes to the second part of your question, like building that plan. That's where it has to start. You need to sit down and lay out the plan of what you want your firm to look like, what you want your life to look like, what you want your bank account to look like. At the end of the day, you have to do at least, I tell people, you at least have to do the how, the what, and the when. The how much money you need, when you want to work, and what you want to be doing. But then the more specific that you get with that plan, the easier it will be to make decisions that get you closer to that. So I tell people that's your definition of success. And it may be mostly financial. It may be not as much financial and more time focused. It may be value focused. You need to lay out at least those three things and then see what else makes sense in the context of it, because otherwise you have no idea where you want to get. So it's harder to figure out what steps will get you there.
Okay. And I mean, when we talk about, for the outline of this webinar, we talked about how to determine your best role. And that's probably also an influence in, how to get there and how to implement it. But is that, I think, in the law firm context, we see attorneys playing the rainmaker role, the admin role, the office manager role, the managing partner role. How did that sort of buy into your framework? I mean, before we started, you mentioned I'm not practicing law as much right now. Like, I could take a vacation. There's someone who's doing that. Where does that fit into, and how did you do that mental mapping of what's the type of attorney who I want to be? And that could apply to other businesses too.
Yeah. So basically, there's the age-old adage, which is somewhat true. If you can find somebody else to do this 80% as well as you can, you should delegate it. And while I don't know that that's going to apply 100% of the time, it's a good place to start. And so, for example, I can find somebody who can attorney 80% as well as me. I can find people that can attorney better than me, because it's not my blue flame. It's not my passion. For me, what I've never been able to find anybody who could get that 80% mark was not necessarily marketing tactics, but vision, vision for the firm, vision for the marketing, vision for the client systems, etc. So one, that had to be me, but also two, that's my blue flame. That's what I really enjoy. That's why I started a marketing company. Like, I love sitting down and talking to attorneys about marketing and intake and getting that client to sign up, because we can all practice law differently. We all do different areas of law. We all have different clients, but getting that client to like your firm, to want to hire your firm, to get them signed up, it's going to be pretty consistent no matter what you do. You just have to change, how you make that emotional pull, how you make your value proposition, etc. So for me, both those things fit in the same way. I know a ton of great attorneys that are true solos and do everything themselves. I have no idea how they do it because I wasn't good at HR and I wasn't good at payroll and I wasn't good at being an attorney while doing all those things. So for me, it was easy to bring on other people just because I saw the value in them doing something as well or better than I could do it. That's not going to apply for everybody. There's going to be a part of you that's going to be an internal decision where you have to decide if you're okay giving up that control to have somebody else, push your brand forward. But if you don't do that, you're going to work that much more and that probably that much harder just because you're going to have to wear so many different hats. Jack of all trades, master of none. And as a true solo, you're the custodian, you're the receptionist, you're the HR department, you're the actual lawyer, you're so many things. So, God bless people that can do that. It wasn't for me for so many reasons.
Well, so what's interesting is you're bringing such a business perspective in here, and I just want to reference, the Clio Legal Trends Report for a moment to frame this discussion that what you're saying is not really, it is an anecdote, but it's not anecdotal in that the report showed year over year that, 86% of attorneys want to grow their firms in the next 3 years. About 92% said that law school didn't prepare them for the business side of running a law firm, and that, 76% say, they lack business acumen to run a law firm well. And all of these things, I think, contribute to maybe not even taking a step back and identifying, are you really good and passionate about marketing for law firms or lawyers, and that hasn't even been something that has sort of percolated to your brain yet, because there is a strong identity in the amount of time and investment that it takes to become an attorney. I think for a moment it would be helpful to also speak to the ethical component. I know Kristen at Law Clerk, the Freelance Lawyer Network, very well. We've worked a lot together, and there are a ton of lawyer exchanges and networks around there. Did you start to sort of dip your toe in? Did you bring in a partner? How do we get around the ethical dilemma, first and foremost, for the lawyers who are here to delegate off some of those things if you realize marketing is my passion, or accounting or business growth and development is my passion? How do you just before we go into the nitty gritty, make sure that your law firm is operating ethically if you're about to delegate some of that legal work, because that's often the things that are untouched when we talk about delegation?
So the first step is a really good system. So you have to have a good organized system in place. It can look like whatever you want it to look like. It can be kept wherever you want it to be kept. It can be digital, it can be handwritten, it can be whatever. But without that, you don't know what, or everybody else doesn't know what they're supposed to do, and you don't know whether or not they did it. And so that could be in a case management system with workflows. That can be a Tetra or a firm wiki page. That can be a 3-ring binder that has a bunch of tabs on it that helps people figure it out. But without that, then you're really just sending people off into the wilderness to fend for themselves, as opposed to, with a system, it's not just, hey, here's this motion you need to write, like, go have fun, have it back to me tomorrow. Mm-hmm. It's, look, here's what you're supposed to do. Here's the templates we have. Here's what we're looking for here. Here's this. And then you still have to, from my position, ethically review all of it, make sure it's correct, make sure it's right, file it. I mean, if you're going to automate, like we automate, notices of appearance or HIPAA releases, something like that. Do I read over all of them? I don't think so, because really it just needs a client signature and everything else is the same. But for anything that has any semblance of customization to that case, I mean, that's going to get read by an attorney 100%. But the benefit is at my firm, it can get read by a person who I met because he was my law school professor, because he's been a lawyer for 30 years, because he is the head of our business litigation department, as opposed to it being me, who's been an attorney for 8 years and really hasn't even been an attorney for the last 2.5. I mean, I probably go to court 6 times a year. And I probably take, maybe 4 or 5 cases. I'm trying to make it 0, but with coronavirus, and then I have a bleeding heart. So I hear the story of, what somebody's going through, and I want to help them. And sometimes I can't pawn that off on somebody else.
So one thing actually that brings up an interesting point in framing our discussion, Jordan, which is that, I think oftentimes you talk about the 3-day work week, and it's sort of the 3-day obliged work week. And, those 2 other days could be Sure, they could be gardening or rock climbing or, spending time with your friends and family, but they could also be doing pro bono work or working with clients that you otherwise would not have time and bandwidth to devote work to. So I think that's important that, this sort of 3-day work week that you've delegated down to is something that can match a lot of different life and work goals, and not just working less by definition. If you're someone who really does feed and grow on a 5-day work week, but maybe you want to contribute, those other 2 days to, less revenue generating, work that isn't required to make sure that you make your ends meet. So I think oftentimes, it's a different target for everyone, what their revenue, their work goals are. So let's talk a little bit about, all right, so you're here, you've got, $200,000 in debt, you have a baby on the way, you have a marketing agency, you are taking over all of your marketing work. Like, how did you determine, what do I tackle first in the face of so much opportunity and challenge? Who can take it on? Who do I trust to take it on, especially without, decades in the legal industry? And how do you just get started? Do you dip your toe in? You look at the least risky, the biggest impact? What's your approach here?
So I look at it really, so there's 3 phases. We talked about the first phase. So I've got some notes over here. Just want to make sure I didn't miss anything. So that first phase is creating that plan like we talked about. So once you have that plan, you know what you're building towards. And realistically, you can't necessarily build towards that in a straight line, because I think the second phase is growth, and really the third phase is delegation. Because if it's just you have no one to delegate to. And that first hire may not be, you may have to delegate so many things that position isn't designed for. So really, you've got to grow into the size and the position to delegate everything properly. So from that standpoint, what I always talk about people, people always ask, when should you hire somebody? And they look at it from a cost standpoint. And I always look at it from a opportunity cost standpoint. So for us, for that first hire, I was like, okay, I looked at where the cases were coming from. I was generating a good amount of the cases. I didn't want to do the legal work. I wanted to do the marketing. I wanted to be the face of the firm. So I was like, all right, I'm going to hire a law student to do all of my e-filings. And in exchange for that, I'm going to do 2 networking lunches a week instead of 1. And then I'm going to hire a paralegal to do, these things and write my motions. And for that, I'm going to now do 3 networking lunches a week, or I'm going to do a happy hour a week, or I'm going to do, a Zoom hangout every week, something along those lines. So at that beginning stage, really you're trading off what you're doing for stuff that will either bring in more money or save you money, so that you can get in that position to really have enough people to hit that true definition of success, that true plan, that true roadmap. And so you can't really make the decision on what's the easiest. You can't really make the decision on what's the best thing for me to delegate. You really have to go by what's the easiest thing for me to delegate, what's the cheapest thing for me to delegate, what's the, something along those lines. Because you don't have the opportunity. Like if we started this with venture capital money, then great. Then every law firm would have a CEO and a COO and a CMO and a CFO, and, as well as everybody who reports underneath them, where instead I started a law firm with like $300 in my pocket and renting office space from somebody that I met when I was a prosecutor, and he was a defense attorney. You don't have the luxury that like Uber has to have, $5 billion in venture capital money before the doors open and be able to lose money for the first, 5 years of the program or everything. So you can't really you have to make that decision based upon staying open and staying financed and staying, with the money that you have there. And so that was what I did at the beginning. So that got us from, so it started out with just me, and then we had a law student, and then we had a full-time staff member, and then my wife quit her other job to come work with us. And then we grew from there. And it was really at about that point, once I had her as a second attorney, that was really when I started being able to be more tactical in the delegation, because at the end of the day, if the S hit the fan, like there was another attorney to go and do stuff. When that wasn't there, you can't really delegate as much, because you still need to be able to do the legal work.
So I think that brings up a really, really good point. Away from any 3-day work week discussion, it's critical that you have a backup, right? I mean, not just like necessarily hired on as staff in your firm, but that in your business continuity plans, in your disaster plans, if anything were to happen to you, you would need to have your clients served. You would need to have some sort of backup solution. So for anyone who is, here, who's maybe not, targeting a 3-day work week or ready for that yet, it's still important to have someone who's identified as able to serve your clients, even if it hasn't been as formally structured out as Jordan's describing. Now, I think one thing also that, Cassandra raised a really great question. If you're focused, Jordan, on like those delegating the very first, easiest, lightest tasks, that means a fairly low level person that you're delegating to. They may even be someone you find on like, Upwork or a freelance network, or, someone's kid, if you're, a professional who has, college age kids or something. If you're bringing in those lower level folks, whoever they may be, how do you prevent yourself from becoming the backlog? And Cassandra, this is something that I face personally. Any head of a department has faced this. Any head of a firm has faced this. You delegate, and then you have to train, monitor, answer all the questions to make sure that they're equipped with what they need. And that can feel like a whole heck of a lot of work. How do you not be the bottleneck?
So the easy answer is it goes back to systems. If you have that system in place, if you have their tasks organized, if you have a manual for them to follow, that's going to weed out so many questions. The realistic answer is you need that first person to be a great hire, because then they will build that for you by the questions that they do have. So what I suggest to people is, no offense to Upwork or any of those, for that very first hire, if you have a law school near you, that should be your first hire. A 1L, a 2L, something along those lines. My first hire came back to our firm as an attorney. He did literally everything in the firm. Like, he started out addressing mail and doing e-filing, and then he became a paralegal for his, whatever it was, 2L summer into 3L year. And then he left to go be a certified legal intern at the state for whatever that was, 1 semester. Came back, worked for us as little as he could during bar prep, and then became an attorney for us because he was a great fit, because he cared. I think that $10 to $15 an hour from a law student who wants to be a lawyer, you will get better work than $20, $25 an hour from somebody on Upwork or a virtual assistant or something along those lines, assuming that the position is anything remotely related to being helpful for them as an attorney. Like, they will genuinely learn on the job in a manner where they give an S about you and your firm, and not losing and getting their bar license at some point. And, I worked for people super cheap, and I learned so much when I was in law school. I actually worked for people for free, and I don't do that now. I pay everybody. Some of them will just be $10 an hour as a law student for a semester. And look, half of them finished and were like, I realize I don't want to do this. Like, I don't want to do this area of law. I don't want to do criminal defense, or I don't want to do business law, or whatever was the major practice they were working on, which is so helpful for them, just as much as learning, I do want to do this. I do want to be an attorney here, etc. And so that's right now my paralegal and my director of first impressions. They took I guess they signed up for the LSAT, had to push the LSAT because of coronavirus. And so they're looking at going to law school in the next 2 years, because they enjoy what they've done here, and they want to, hopefully be attorneys here, but if not, be attorneys somewhere, just from the experience that they've had. So that's what I would suggest for that first hire, is a law student. They will care more.
I have a couple things also, Jordan, that's so great to add. Just Cassandra, as someone who's a manager, but not, an attorney or working for a firm, but I've managed remotely now for, 3 management positions. I'll say that it's really important to identify, are you the bottleneck because someone doesn't have the information that they need to do the work, or are you the bottleneck because you need to review the work before it goes live, like a blog post or something? For me, I've realized that my tolerance is way higher for mistakes in blog posts and content that can be corrected, that can be updated, and you push the website again and it's live and it's fixed and no one even probably saw it anyway. Let them sort of run with that. Let them draft those things and build them. And, as long as they're not going to take the website down, the tolerance is pretty high for you not to review as much before it's live. That goes for non-legal work, obviously. But, it's also important for people to write their own training manual. Like, as Jordan was saying, we actually use Notion at Smith.ai, and it's important that when someone has just done something, it's really fresh in their brain. So if you don't have a process for writing a blog post or social media or monitoring a marketing campaign or setting up Google Analytics, a new goal, for example, make sure that the person who just did that documents it if you haven't already, because obviously, you know, when you're a solo small firm, it's very hard to take the time to document these things. But when you're training someone, it can be their responsibility to document it. And you can say, you have ownership over this. So it is up to you how we organize these things. And what do you think we should do? And then they start to really care about that as part of their work. And the last thing is, you know, seek out the answer before you bother your boss. And that's something that, you know, you have to do it when someone's already sort of onboarded. But if they have first sought out to see if the answer exists versus team members who always come to you first and you always respond to them, it's sort of Pavlovian to train yourself to respond back to them. Did you already look for the answer and you couldn't find it? Okay, yes, let's get on the phone and I'll train you. Rather than you always being the easiest first resort, you're not always going to be available. And eventually you won't be available a whole day of the week. What does that mean? You know? To me, that's been really helpful, and proactive check-ins with the team. So not now that we all have chat apps like Slack and Microsoft Teams, how easy is it now to be the bottleneck 40 times a day when they ask you, oh, it's really easy to get in touch. Let me just send a quick Slack message or chat or team, you know, instant message. Then you get inundated like constantly, and that can be your entire day. It's also helpful to tell your team, unless it's urgent, can you consolidate your questions at the end of the day or at the beginning of the day, like so I can review them while I'm having my coffee and I can answer them, and then your day is full, set up and equipped, and I can be in meetings and not worry that I'm leaving you hanging. Because I mean, that's definitely something that I handle. We're on this Zoom call right now, and what questions are accumulating, you know, from the team. They do need to have peace of mind that I'll get back to them, but the more structure around that, the easier. So I hope that helps, and feel free to chat in if you have more questions about that, Cassandra.
And so time-saving tip along those lines, video is your friend when it comes to building that training manual, because you can either record your screen while you're actually doing it, or literally take your iPhone on a tripod and stick it over your shoulder and record you doing it once, and then that's the video for them. You can get it transcribed later, you can have it edited later, whatever, but you've added, you know, 10 seconds to start this video, stop this video, and then another 30 seconds to put it somewhere. But in terms of the actual work, you've done everything as you needed to do it. You're not sitting down trying to write it out while you're going through it or after you did it.
It's also really important to understand why you do things. And I think, you know, Jordan, if you can speak to that as an aspect of delegation, like how much do you need to bring people into the goals of this project are X, Y, and Z. Like this is why we do social media marketing, or this is why we're hosting these Facebook Live events to build our community online. Because if you don't sell that, then you're just teaching these individual little tactics that never help that person who you've delegated to make decisions and even have ideas that are stemming from that goal that you told them about. And they see the big picture and they can sort of operate and bring ideas to you that may facilitate, you know, the growth goals that you have.
Yeah, from my standpoint along those lines, like we are very revenue driven. And I say that not necessarily from the standpoint of like money is the end all be all, but there's no problem the business has that can't be solved with more money. You can hire more people, you can turn down more clients, whatever it is that you need, you know, you need to focus on that end. So we talk to everybody as part of their job and in the context of generating revenue, whether that's actually doing the work on the case, whether that's providing such great customer service and such a great client experience, the client comes back, whether that's marketing the firm, whether that's getting them to write reviews, whether that's, you know, anything along those lines. So throughout the time frame that we have that client, they'll get a couple surveys, you know, how are we doing on the intake process? What can we work on? What they like? And anytime they mention anybody, which it is almost never mentioning me, which is my favorite part of this, they'll mention the attorney they spoke to, they'll mention our receptionist, they'll mention our intake person. Then we do a, you know, firm-wide email. This is awesome. You know, congrats to so-and-so. This is so wonderful. Same thing. They get reviews that mention other people's names. You know, we'll blast those out externally and internally and explain to them how this is a reflection of them doing a really good job at whatever their job is. Like you are always, as a small law firm, you are always marketing. Everybody is on the marketing team. because if they stink at their job, no one's going to hire the firm. If they're great at their job, people are that much more interested in coming back, referring friends, writing that nice review, posting your stuff online, whatever it is. And so when you look at it that way, I think that helps everybody do a great job at their job, whatever it is, because they realize the positive benefit to the firm's bottom line, even if it's just them answering the phone when it rings, even if it's just them following up on those people to hire, even if it's just them, taking that extra 15 minutes to send the client some interesting article that applies to their case. Or when we were doing family law, we'd have some parenting coordinators that we work with consistently. So we'd send the information, follow up on the clients who needed it, to connect them there. Whatever that extra little, white glove 5-star service is, it's going to make a huge impact on the bottom line by people being great at their job.
Yeah. So let's move from those low-level tasks to, higher level tasks, mid-level tasks. Like, how do you go there? Is it the same person? Is it a new person? And what's sort of your investment in their initial training if it's not just like these really easy sort of small, lower level tasks?
Sure. So the first part is you have to have the mindset that you cannot be essential to your firm. And that may go completely against it. We just had somebody leave. Maybe they feel strongly differently against
Sonia
that.
has to go. She'll be back, she said.
No, totally fine. I'm just, we spend all of this time wanting to be the best attorneys, wanting to run the best firms, wanting to be wonderful. It's about us. We win these awards, whatever it is. But you have to have a firm that you are not essential at. And then you have to have a firm that nobody is essential at, because if God forbid somebody gets sick or somebody takes vacation or maternity leave or paternity leave, whatever, if somebody is essential, everybody is going to bear that brunt. If nobody is essential and everybody can cover for everybody when that happens, it's so much better. So as you get past that growth stage, so it's just you, maybe now you have 4 or 5 people, then you can make the decision on what's going to be this person's job, what's going to be that person's job, and then what am I going to cross-train people on. So we have everybody, they have their roles, they have their stuff, and then they're cross-trained usually on like a third of 3 other people's jobs, just because that'll give us enough coverage. The easiest thing is answering the phone. That's the thing that I think, and I love that you're doing this with Smith.ai. Answering the phone is probably the most important thing for everybody to know how to do well, just because you're going to have that day where there's a million people who call. And, how many of you are on different Facebook groups, lawyer groups? You'll hear complaints about people being rude on the phone or a bad experience with somebody at a firm or a marketing company or something along those lines, because it goes back to that conversation. So that's a good place to start. The other thing is finding people to work for you who are genuinely good human beings, which sounds like it should be easy, but unfortunately is not. That's going to cover a lot of, that'll overcome a lot of problems as well. When your staff genuinely cares about other people, doesn't have to be you. It should be the client. It should be the other people at the firm. It should be, whatever it is. That's going to make them so much better at covering when somebody's sick or when somebody has to leave to go to a doctor's appointment, and having that conversation with a client in a little bit more kid gloves or a more understanding manner or whatever it is along those lines. But that's, I guess, to answer your question, really you need to get to that like maybe 4 people to really start figuring out where those people fit in your plan. The flip side to that is what got you here may not get you there. You may have somebody who's a great, Jack or Jill of all trades, who's a really good first hire. And we had this with a receptionist who we let go when we hit 9 people because she wasn't great enough at anything to last in a spot when we delegated enough. She couldn't keep up with the technology. She couldn't keep up with the system. She couldn't keep up with all those other things. So it was great when it was, her and 3 of us, because she papered over a lot of the problems. But when it got time to become an expert in something, she just didn't have it. And it still bothers me. Firing somebody is the worst thing I ever have to do. Love it when it's firing clients, hate it when it's firing staff. But, you have to be aware of, it's not just the right person, it's the right person in the right seat. And it's that seat being right long-term. People change, firms change, businesses change, technology changes, systems change. Sometimes you have to make that decision. But that's about the point that you can start delegating off the more serious stuff, because you can tell them like, hey, you're going to be our lead paralegal. So every motion is going to be written by you first. So here's here's a law book. Here's one of my law school books on writing, business law motions or whatever, read through chapter 1, 4, and 6. It'll help you with some of those things. You can spend more time training. You can do more specified training. You can do more, you make them less of a generalist and more of an expert.
So it's funny because, you have two businesses. You have the law firm and you have the marketing agency, and many law firms delegate to a marketing agency, as you're experiencing. And, how do you position LegalEase Marketing from a delegation mindset where that the law firms have to delegate this, but it's not to an individual who they hire in-house to do their marketing, it's to an agency? When do you approach delegating to individuals, and then when do you look to agencies? And that may be for marketing or bookkeeping or freelance lawyer help, paralegals. It runs the gamut.
So you have to look at value, not at price. That's the first mistake that people make. People want to hire the cheapest accountant, or they want to bring in the cheapest staff member. That's not going to get you where you want to go. You need to go off of value. So for us, like, our accountant is expensive, but he's worth it. Not only does he and his team do a great job, they also send us business. So they're a really easy line item, because I'm like, okay, I paid them whatever it is, $6,000 last year to do payroll and books and taxes and all that. They sent us $15,000 worth of business. Had I gone through paychecks, I would have saved some money, but really it would have cost me money in the long run. So it's interesting because you sort of bell curve it. At the beginning, it's easier to outsource a lot of the stuff for smaller projects and maybe have 1 or 2 staff members. But then as you continue to grow, it's easier to bring things more in-house. And then it probably gets to the point where it's easier to have your in-house oversee, tactics from virtual assistants or firms.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so the thing that we do with our marketing company that it's what I wish I had on day one, because we actually talk to the attorney about what they're really trying to do. Who are you trying to get in front of? What are you trying to, what message are you trying to convey? What's your ideal client? What's your ideal case? What's your ideal situation? And so they can then focus on being a really great law firm, and we can focus on getting the right people in through the door, when those things usually aren't, although they are although there is a overlap between those things, it's a totally different mindset. I mean, being a great lawyer and being a great marketer are almost completely different in a lot of respects. In other respects, they're at least not very similar. And so it's one of those things where you have to look at it from what's going to be the most value. You can spend a bunch of time learning to market, or you can spend a bunch of time learning to be a lawyer, or you can spend a bunch of time learning to be a great leader, or you can spend a bunch of time learning to be a great business owner. I mean, you have to make the decision for you and not care about what other people think. I mean, it has to be, this is what's going to make me happy. This is what I want to work towards. And if it changes in 3 months, 6 months, a year, great, no problem. But if you're not continuously working for what you want, you're not going to care as much. You're not going to be energized as much. You're going to get burned out faster. You're not going to, put in that time, and you're not going to care enough to really make sure that you're doing it the right way. At least in my experience.
Yeah, I think you make a really good point, Jordan. And one of the other things that's sort of coming to mind is how do you know, and how do you train your team? You talked about, are they good, honest people? Do they have the right character traits? Skills are much easier to build. Character traits are way harder, if not impossible, when you're already, fully baked adult, to train, another adult to do something differently in terms of their mindset or their approach to work, how much they care about things that you care about too. But when it comes to, hiring and identifying people, are there sort of certain questions that you use? Do you want to make sure that they have worked well with others and taken direction? Do you want them to be more go-getters? Like, is there sort of a personality type or a framework for bringing on these first people to help your firm that you use?
So, phenomenal question. And we're going to circle back to something we talked about beforehand. So I try to get literally everybody in the interview, when they're interviewing here, at some point to say, if all else fails and they can't find in the training manual and everybody's busy, to Google it. Like you talked about earlier, try to find the answer. Like, I want everybody to have that skill. And if they don't answer that way, or they don't have it, I pass, just because I have to have I don't want to micromanage. I don't want to manage, period. I have to, but I definitely don't want to micromanage. In terms of background, look, cheat. Like, I think Chick-fil-A is one of the most well-run companies. I think they do a really great job. I think they have super nice staff. So if I'm looking for somebody to answer the phones or be client focused, I look at where did they work before. Did they work at Chick-fil-A? Did they work at Disney? We have Publix over here, which is a supermarket that's known for being expensive, but really great customer service. Did they work for Publix? I can use these gigantic companies that are making millions that even on a $10 an hour high school person are training them in customer service the right way, or the way that I want them to naturally fall back on. And then I don't have to spend that money on the customer service, on the genuine good human being part. I have to spend that on, now let's take that to the law firm. Let's take that to the client experience. Let's take that to, instead of somebody who can't find a can of peas, now it's somebody who's not going to get to see their kid again. Like, it's a different conversation, but really you genuinely caring about that human being is going to be a transferable skill across those things. So look for people that have worked for companies that you really like and respect. It could be competitors. It could be other law firms that, you think do things the right way, that have a great fit. It could be something totally different. We're in Orlando. So Disney, Universal, SeaWorld employees get a ton of training on dealing with guests who are angry, who spent $10,000 on this vacation and now it's raining and they're pissed off and they're yelling at people. If you can deal with them, you can deal with somebody, with a law firm client. So that's what I look for from those perspectives.
And when it comes to sort of getting started with a new employee or even a contractor or agency, like, do you use a trial period? How do you sort of approach that getting to know you? Let's start working together. Have you already played out a lot of scenarios, or do you actually have a probationary period where they start working for you and you're both sort of feeling it out?
So we have a 90-day probationary period, which I've never really not exercised. Like, I've never had somebody hit the 90 days and then not hit day 91. We had people who within 3 days we knew weren't a good fit and we were just like, adios, see you later. But we always try to hire earlier. And so the reason for that is, like, I want to give them a week or 2 weeks of just following everybody else around. And then I want everybody to tell me how that person did. And it could be like, look, they're super nice and they were, and they were a little slow on this. Or it could be they were great at it, but they were a little cold. And we'll make a decision on, if that's something worth keeping. Because for me, the whole point is having office morale being high and having people that genuinely like each other will help them work together better, will help them push our messaging forward, will help them run our systems better, will help them cover for each other. And so I want them to be able to spend that time together during that training so they can see from somebody in action, but also we can see how they interact with that person. I've had people come in who we hired for attorney spots and they were super rude to my receptionist and they didn't have a job the next day because I didn't like that they thought they were better than anybody. Like, I don't think I'm better than anybody. I just have, I just took out a bunch of law school debt, so I get to be an attorney as opposed to not. I mean, to me, that's the only difference between me and my receptionist is I took out a bunch of student loan debt and she didn't. So,
I mean, I think that mindset is really admirable, Jordan. And I love how down to earth you are and how you make the legal profession so accessible with that mindset that, just another human being. I really ascribe to that. I'm wondering, now that we, have about, 17, 16 minutes left, how do you keep things off your plate and don't let scope creep sort of happen? There are new projects, you take ownership of them, and all of a sudden, that I'll work a couple hours in the morning becomes a half day, becomes a full day back on your schedule, or a whole Saturday. How do you maintain that things are off your plate? Do you have sort of like a check-in on a regular basis with yourself and, maybe your wife or other stakeholders to say, what's everyone's workload balance like, or your mix? I mean, how are you sort of doing that gut check and also making sure that someone you're about to delegate more to can handle it and you're not setting them up for failure?
So let me answer that question a little circumspectly and then we'll get to it.
Okay.
So really you have to look at it as 99% of law firms are going to do that process, or going to assign tasks in 3 ways. You're going to have email, you're going to have a case management system or a task management system, and you're going to have a calendar. And so you have to look at the difference between those three things, because that's going to help answer your question directly. From my standpoint, an email, that's an inbox that's a task list you don't control. People send you emails, and now it's something that you need to do. From the case management system, the task list, that's the task list you do control. So you can assign tasks to people, workflows, you have control of what gets entered in there. And then your calendar really becomes when those things are going to happen and becomes your life plan. So I always tell people, like, you have to run your entire life off of your calendar, but not as a negative thing, as a liberating thing. And what I mean by that is, like, if you don't want to work on Wednesdays, then just go onto your calendar and put "do not schedule me for anything" for every Wednesday, and have it repeat every week ad infinitum. And if a staff member sets you something on a Wednesday, you need to have a conversation with them about not to do that, to check the calendar, check the availability, etc. The flip side to that is, if you have to get something done, book it on the calendar. A lot of people will set Friday mornings, 9 to 12. Don't book me for anything. That's deep work time. That's whatever. And so by, that block scheduling, by making sure those times, by limiting them, by setting those rules, by controlling that calendar, you'll control the creep. You can't control when emails come in. You can control what tasks get assigned to whom in a case management system, and you can control what you put on your calendar. So a lot of times that's putting on your calendar that you're not going to do anything at this time, just as much as it's putting on your calendar that you are going to do certain things and what you're going to do at that time. And then you have to really honor that. Like, you have to cherish that time as if it's the most important thing, because that will get other people to do it. And along those lines, like, you should probably also offer that same thing to other people. So, like, none of my staff miss their kids' concert for school or a doctor's appointment, whatever, because I tell them, just put it on the calendar. And when you're booking stuff, you need to check the calendar to make sure that, we've got three staff members that'll do phone answering and the legal work and client interaction. So 2 of them need to be available at any time. So if it's available, you want to take vacation that week, everybody's here, book it. You need to come in early, go late, leave early, whatever it is, just book it and check the calendar for everybody else and give everybody that same understanding. Because, happy employees are going to do better from this. And then you're treating people, relatively equally when it comes to those things. So there's a fairness and a team aspect and a camaraderie, but that's how you stop the creep, and that it is on my calendar until coronavirus. Every Tuesday and every Wednesday is, you cannot set me for anything unless you check with me first. And I want to know why it has to be set that day, as well as what it is. And there's plenty of times that we do it, I shouldn't say plenty, maybe once every other week, I'll get booked for an hour thing on one of those days. Trying to get on somebody else's podcast, they only go on those days. Trying to schedule a court hearing, the judge will only hear that on those days. We've had clients who have flown in or are about to fly out and have to get in immediately, something along those lines. But for the most part, like, my staff knows it's an extra hurdle to jump, and we're okay to jump it for the right reason, for the right situation, for the right experience. And that's how you stop the creep, by being really specific and caring and honoring that time.
So I don't know if, Cassandra, you're willing to come off video and off mute for a second, but you had a really good question, and it would be awesome if you would be willing to sort of raise it to Jordan about delegation. If you turn your video on, then I'll know to unmute you, or you can unmute yourself. If not, I'm happy to sort of raise it, which is, around calendar blocking. So Jordan, I think a lot of us, and myself included, like, it's easy to block off your calendar, and really easy to also discount that time as, only I know that it's my time, and I guess I could have this podcast or this recording or this meeting that someone is telling me they need me for. It's very tempting and sort of easy to take yourself and your needs less seriously than everyone else's needs. So how do you prevent delinquency when blocking off your calendar time?
So we are super open with our staff, with our team. Like, they know how much money the firm makes. They know what money comes in. They know where it goes out. They know what our goals are. They know, all that stuff. I know that a bunch of firms don't run that way, and I don't have anything negative on firms that do. Just that's what we have. And so a lot of that conversation is what I talked about before. It's like, look, I'm not working Tuesdays and Wednesdays, but at the same time, when you need to go to the doctor's appointment, like, just schedule it. You don't need to ask us for the time off. As long as there's nothing else on the calendar for that time for other staff, book it. You know, if you need to go take care of your kid's sick from school, you need to go pick them up. Great, go ahead and do it. Like, we have your support, because at the end of the day, like I talked to you about before this, and it sounds morbid, but like, we're all gonna die one day, and I don't think anyone's gonna sit there thinking, I wish I had worked 100 hours last week. I wish I had stayed in the office longer. Everyone's gonna think, I wish I'd spent more time with my kids. I wish I hadn't sacrificed this for work. I wish I hadn't done that. So I kind of let myself off the hook by honoring everybody else's time as well. And so, but at the end of the day, it's an emotional decision you have to make. But if you're sacrificing your own time, then nobody else is going to honor it, because you don't honor it to begin with.
That's a very good point. Very, very good point. And also, there is a point in you taking that time, and either you need it for deep work that is an investment in the firm in a different way, or you need it for rest and relaxation and taking care of your family, which allows you to come back to work the next day that you do. But that, I think another thing just functionally to mention is that if you're using a scheduling tool and you don't have it plugged into both your work and your personal calendar to do so, like, you don't need to have everything on your work calendar that's personal and private. You can connect multiple calendars to check into scheduling tools to make sure that, like, you don't get booked when it's some private event or doctor's appointment that your entire team doesn't need to know about. They just need to know it's a doctor's appointment. But it's important to know that if you're using one of those tools, that you do check, all of your calendars, so it's not just work appointments and then someone accidentally, outside of your organization books time with you when you have a kid's soccer match, So it's important to think about it holistically, but I think affording that same benefit to your team will help them be respectful. And then also, you don't want to breed resentment, against yourself, even that you've blocked off time and then scope creep happens and you end up sort of betraying what your calendar said you were going to do and jumping into all these meetings. I think another thing that I have allowed myself to do is to realize that there's going to be a lot of noise in Slack and in these chat apps, and even on Facebook groups and on LinkedIn. There are going to be conversations that I'm not a part of, or I'm not a part of in that moment. And am I okay with that? Am I missing out on significant work or revenue or growth opportunities? Then I need to evaluate how I can be a part of that and when. But if not, and I can't be, every place, every time, how do you even block out time for, while I'm cooking dinner, I'm going to look at my Facebook groups, and I don't have to be like 100% attention to that while something's cooking. I can do that at the same time, or I enjoy it and it doesn't feel like work. But if there are times that are dedicated, maybe you run a Facebook group and that's real work, can that be delegated, or can you block off time for that, or have the proper alerts and notifications? And that's such a huge piece of that. And Jordan, I would love to know, as we sort of start to wind down on our time here today, how do you also use technology to alert you alongside your rules? Like, how does that reinforce your rules? How do you not get notified on Thursday and Friday where your email is buzzing? To me, if I don't turn my notifications off, I will have the biggest complex around, like, I'm missing work and I'm letting people down and who needs me. And I actually just have to have it be pretty binary, all or nothing.
Yeah, well, so from that perspective, that's a great point. I shut badges off on so many of my apps on my iPhone so that I don't have that. One of them being email, another one being Facebook. But the short answer is, like, look, we're delegating things downward, right? Like, we should be focusing on the $500 an hour tasks and delegating down the $100 tasks and then delegating down the $10 an hour tasks, whatever. At some point, that delegation becomes automation. So you can delegate something to a computer. We use Lawmatics a ton for intake, and then my marketing company, we do build outs for Lawmatics for other firms, because if somebody contacts our firm I can have 30 touch points with them that are automated texts, automated emails that aren't my office calling. Another one is phone calls. I think Smith.ai, great from the inbound and also the outbound, because that's something that pulls somebody away from it. I mean, that phone call is more like email, right? That's a call you can't control. And then when you schedule follow-ups, you don't necessarily control the other person answering. And so you have to look at the technological ability you have there to take care of those things. Like everybody should have calendar booking. Like you should have Acuity or Schedule Once or something along those lines.
They're
because
free.
then they're free. And then calendar booking is one directional. I sent you an email. It has my calendar. We don't have to have 8 emails back and forth to find a time that fits. If I can have that drip campaign automated, then nobody has to worry about it. The client calls, we enter the information, and everything runs. Nobody has to keep that in their mind. We can just process the information. Scheduling hearings, that's a big one that's easy to delegate for somebody else, because a lot of times your judicial assistant is not going to use your calendar booking. But if you delegate that to your lowest level staff member, they can be ready for the phone. They can call that person 3 or 4 times a day to try to get that scheduling done. Documents, you can automate a lot of those documents being generated. It may not be fully correct, but it might be 80% correct. And then you have to add the other stuff, as opposed to constantly looking for the template. We work with a lot of estate planning firms that have their clients fill out forms in really good detail about assets. And then that goes right into the will, goes right into the trust, goes right into there. So you're taking time off of your staff by having the client enter that information and then automating that entry. Having other attorneys cover short hearings, moving things virtually has saved so much time for so many firms, because you're not doing that 45-minute drive for that 10-second hearing and then the 45-minute drive back. But even when that's no longer an option, it may be worth it for you to hire a coverage company for a lot of those. And maybe it's $100 to cover, but if you can bill 2 hours of work at $300 an hour, you've still made $500. So, I hate to go back to revenue, but it's sort of the easiest way to do it. You have to look at what are the things that will save you money by giving you time, or allow you to bill more, or allow you to make more, or allow you to save your own time. And then figuring out from there, what's going to be the best bang for your buck. It's going to be slightly different for every firm. There's going to be certain, if you like answering the phone, then pawn that off last. If you like writing motions, then pawn that off last. But for the most part, you're going to know what takes up the most time, because if you don't, you can spend a week and follow what you're doing and write down what you did, or you can look at your time entries for booking stuff through your case management system, or look at what cases you were in and what you were doing on them, or look at your calendar and see what was on there. And then just start figuring out what's the easiest thing for you to pass off onto somebody else, or pass off into automation. And I always tell my staff, I'm like, look, you're not going to automate yourself out of a job. You're going to automate us not having to hire somebody else, so that you can do less work, or that you can do more targeted work consistently. And it's easier to give you a raise. Like, it's a lot easier to bonus the 10 people that we have than it is to bonus 50 people. Like, I know some PI firms have, some of the larger firms over here might have 100 people or even more between call banks and everything else. Like, that's my whole thing for them, is like, look, tell me what you're doing that you hate doing, and then let's figure out how we can do it better, how we can do it faster, how we can automate it, or how we can pass it off onto somebody else. Like, my paralegal who can bill $100, $150 an hour shouldn't be doing e-filing when I can get a law student, summer intern, or even a UCF undergrad kid for $10 an hour to do all that. It sucks to look at it that way, but it's the easiest way to figure out who should be doing what, based upon cost and based upon opportunity cost.
Opportunity cost is such a strong resonator with me. I was an econ major, and that's something that, you do have a cost for your time, even if it's not immediately direct revenue generating work. If you're doing something that could be handed off, you don't necessarily have to be practicing law or doing casework. You actually could be networking, or doing something that builds your brand in the community, or refining processes or systems that do build brand value, that only you can do, right? Strategic marketing and planning, only you are going to do those things, and that's something that cannot easily be delegated. So keep in mind, you can't get a loan for more time in the day. That is the most precious and limited resource. Jordan, thank you so much for joining us. I put some notes in the chat. Your code is EASE 100 for $100 off. If someone is not yet using Smith.ai for receptionists and chat, it is a very easy thing to delegate to us. And we do have a 20 call, 20 chat free trial that will at least cut down the noise so that you can think about, what are you going to delegate? What are you going to delegate? What are you going to train? Can you go out and look for and interview these people that you can invite to join your team? So I think, Jordan, your advice has landed really soundly on everyone here. A lot of positive feedback, and we've recorded this session. We'll post it to YouTube. I will send it out later today, and anyone who has questions, I put those in the chat too, both my email and Jordan's. And feel free to get in touch with us. I know, just like many questions around firm management, there are a lot of things that seem private and personal, that feel private and personal around what questions we ask with respect to delegation, with respect to firm management, that not everyone is comfortable sharing in a chat or on video. So please feel free to reach out to us. There's a reason why we provide these webinars. We really want to do a service to the community, and we'd love to hear from you. So Jordan, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me. This is wonderful.
All right, wonderful. Well, take care, everyone. Have a great rest of your week.